Welcome back to my channel. I'm Maggie Ostara, and I'm a human design and quantum human design expert and the creator of the 8 Pillars of Feminine Sovereignty. I'm delighted that you're here. Welcome. Today, we're going to dive into the August 2024 Human Design Transit Report. This is where I track the movement of the sun and the earth over the course of the month, but we really kind of look at the big themes. This is the major themes video. And then over the course of the month, every time we have a transit, I then release another video that's more specifically dialed into that specific video. So this one is more about the major themes, and then you can look forward to additional ones dialing into each particular transit. And we're in a transit right now that started a couple of days ago on July 30th. And so if you want to check that out, and you can also check out the Leo new moon in that video, you can go right here and watch that. Because as we go through the specific transits for this month, we're going to start with August 5th. So just know that that one's there, and you can all go out and find out about the transit that we're in right now of the sun and the earth. And then we're going to dive into what else is happening. And there's a lot other stuff happening. Okay, let's go ahead and get started. So in this image, you can see the gates that are being highlighted by the sun and the earth. And this month, I decided to give you both the way that it looks in the body graph, which is the way that I usually do it. And you can see here that there is a predominance in the emotional solar plexus down on the lower right-hand part of the chart. But we don't have that same concentration that we had in July, where we were really looking at the root center. Most of, I think actually all of the gates of the root center were lit up in July. So we're moving on, and there is an emphasis on the emotional solar plexus. We've got 4 out of the 7 gates are lit up, but we don't have anywhere near the concentration that we had last month. And then the other image is the human design mandala. And what I've done is I've gone in and highlighted the same gates that are highlighted in the body graph that you have in the other image, with the simpler image. But when you do that with the mandala, it actually shows you where the gates are in the big circle, right? In the pie chart, if you will. And so the gates of the sun are the ones in the lower right, which correspond to what we're seeing here with the emotional solar plexus. And then the earth are the other ones across the mandala on the other side of the body graph. And those are predominantly a brown, actually. So those are where the earth is. And you can see that where the sun and the earth are, they move counterclockwise around the mandala as we go through the course of the year. So this is what they looks like when you're looking at the body graph or looking at the mandala. Then with this image, you can see I've just laid out what all of the different transits are and what the sun and the earth are doing. And so you can take a screenshot of this if you want, so that you can plan your month and you can see which of the different gates are being lit up by the sun and the earth as we go through the course of the month. And like I said, there's not a super strong pattern as there are on some other months. We do have quite a bit of the knowing circuit being lit up in individual circuitry, but we have quite a bit of collective circuitry and some tribal as well. So we're kind of tapping in and touching into lots of different things in the mandala and in the system during the course of this month. So just to have an outer planets check-in here, probably the biggest news is what's going to happen with Jupiter, and I'm going to talk about that a little bit more in a few minutes. But Jupiter is currently in the gate 36, and on the 17th of August is going to move into the gate 45. So this is a significant change. We're going from collective circuitry to tribal circuitry, and Jupiter is going to then be in the 45 for quite a while, a few months. So like I said, I'll circle back to that in a minute, because it has to do with the full moon, and it also has to do with Mars. So Saturn is currently retrograde in gate 22, and it's going to move back into the gate 63 on August 26th. So for most of the month, Saturn's going to be retrograde in gate 22, which is the gate of surrender. And that's really all about how do we just kind of surrender our ego, surrender our mind, if you will, to understanding that we will have what we need when we need to have it, and that we are supported by spirit. This is an emotional energy. It's on the emotional solar plexus. And so it's an emotional energy of just being able to surrender to spirit. It's in the knowing circuit. So there's a way that we're surrendering to the guidance that can pour through us from that creative intelligence of the universe into that gate 22. And Saturn being retrograde there is like, go take another look at what your attitude is towards spirit. Go take another look at what your emotional tone is when it has to do with being able to receive what you need when you need it, having faith for that, having a kind of a deep sense of knowing that this is the case. How are you with that? Is that something that's dialed in, or is it something you need to go back and take another look at and kind of do some spiritual practice around that so that you can have a deeper sense of confidence around it? And Saturn, being the great teacher, really likes us to focus daily on whatever it is he's lighting up for us. He gets a bad rap for kind of being a taskmaster, but another way to think about it is that he's here to teach us discipline. And so this is a positive discipline, if you embrace it as a positive discipline, to be surrendering our human mind to the greater consciousness and what it is that it has to provide for us. Then when Saturn moves into the gate 63 at the end of August, we're going to have a really different kind of energy happening there. And that's something that I will tune back into towards the end of the month when the transit report that this is relevant to comes up. Uranus, consistent in the gate 8 until December 5th. It's going to retrograde in the gate 8 on September 1st, but Uranus is just consistently there in the gate 8. And the gate 8 is the gate of contribution in quantum human design. It is on the throat center. It's in the knowing circuit. It is how we give voice to our knowing. One of the ways that we give voice to our knowing, there's actually 3 different gates in the knowing circuit on the throat. There's also the 12 and there's also the 20. But this one is really about contribution. It's about service. It's about how we are giving from ourself, because it is an individual circuitry. Okay, so it's coming from the self, and it's also coming from the one out of the G center. And so how are we contributing from our heart based in our purpose and bringing that out and manifesting it out into the world? So that's Uranus is really what is asking us, like, what is our contribution? Are we aligned with it? And is there a way that we need to wake up to some degree? Because Uranus is an awakener, right? And tends to kind of really break up energy and push us to be elevating ourselves, to be transforming ourselves, to be awakening ourselves, breaking up old energy, stagnant energy, stuck emotions, right? Uranus wants to come in and kind of break all that up around us. And it can be sudden. It can be unpredictable, because that's how Uranus is. So one of the things you might be looking at is, are you actually contributing out into the world that your heart is longing for you to do that, right? Is it longing for you to do that? And if so, do you need to decondition yourself in some way so that you can step out of other people's definition of success or other people's definition of what will give you status or give you reputation or that sort of thing? Because that can kind of get wrapped up around our contribution, right? But we want to have it be, broken up and clean and have the energy flowing. So it's just coming right out of your heart, and you have this sense of purpose, and you're bringing it out and contributing into the world. And that's what Uranus is here to support you with, is to be doing that. So like I said, Uranus is going to be here in this gate 8 until early December. So you have some time to work on this. And he's also been there already. Right now he's in line 3. So that means that we're probably experimenting, trying different things out with our contribution. So that's one of the things you can do while you're in the spirit of wanting to awaken a higher frequency contribution that you have to offer. Because Uranus is always here to break things apart where we've kind of given away our power and help us to, really retake our power and to create our own breakthroughs. And so you can be looking at this and kind of looking around in different places in your life where you may be contributing, because I'm sure that you contribute, to different people and different communities, different organizations, different situations, right? So you can be looking at all of that and seeing, do any of them need to be upgraded? Do I need to have a breakthrough in any of those? And then be using this Uranus transit to support you to do that. Neptune continues in the gate 25 through October 1st and is currently retrograde. So the gate 25 is the gate of spirit. It is on the G center, and it's a beautiful, beautiful love of spirit, gate of spirit energy. And so Neptune is really asking us, because in human design, Neptune is one of our spiritual themes. Okay, it's one of our spiritual lessons, if you will, or spiritual invitations. And so here's Neptune saying, how's your spiritual practice? Are you engaged with your spiritual practice? And so if you're not, you can be taking a look at this and going, what can I bring into my life that will help me to foster my love of spirit, my connection with spirit? And human design is an awesome system to teach us, because all of the types and all of the authorities are designed to dance with that creative intelligence of the universe intuitively in a spiritually awakened way. And so human design shows us how we actually do that. It gives us the mechanics of working with spirit. So as you're studying human design more, you have the mechanics that you need to be able to do this from a human design point of view. But it doesn't have to just be from that point of view. It could also be like, I teach Kundalini yoga. I practice Kundalini yoga. So for me, that's what I devote myself to in terms of my spiritual practice. But I also talk with guides. I journal. I do a lot of different things to connect with guides. And there's many different paths. And so the invitation for you is just to be looking at, how can I foster my spiritual connection and my spiritual practice even more? And then, of course, you've got Saturn there in that gate 22, which is kind of asking you the same sort of thing, coming from a somewhat different angle. So these outer planets are lining up to have us focus on what is it that we're doing with our incredible intuition and our individual circuitry. Because the 8, where Uranus is individual circuitry. The 25, it's not the knowing circuit, it's in the sensing circuit, but it's individual circuitry. The 60, which is where Pluto has been, and is going to be there till January 30th, 2025, is also individual circuitry. And so is the 22, which is where Saturn is. Okay. So we've got a lot of individual circuitry happening here, all of these outer planets. And, Pluto, I've talked about Pluto extensively in the last few transits reports, because it's just such a big deal that's happening astrologically with Pluto in the 60. And we had a big configuration last month with multiple planets in the 60. And so we're really looking at, what are we bringing forward into the new world that we've created up until now? Like, what do we want to keep? What mutations, what progressions, what new possibilities do we want to bring forward into this new world? And what of the old order do we want to fall away? And that's what Pluto's assignment has been, and keeps coming at us, and it's going to keep coming at us for a while. So this is your opportunity to really be coming into a sense of yourself, of your own sovereignty, because individual circuitry is very much about sovereignty, in the sense that it is about the self. It's about the individual. But it's partial, because sovereignty is also about our relationships with other people and our world, and how we are benevolent and compassionate and generous, right? And regal in our relationships with each other, and also with the living world and with all species. So there's a lot of invitation here for us to be elevating, really showing up more and more with our own inner guidance turned on, because it's a lot of what these outer planets are doing. They're saying, okay, it's time to really get your inner guidance dialed in. and we're going to help you do that. So I talked a minute ago about Jupiter moving into the gate 45 on August 17th, and he's going to be there all the way until the beginning of December. So Jupiter is going to be there for some time. And Jupiter is this great expansive energy, right? Jupiter just makes everything bigger. And so it can be a blessing, or it can be excessive depending on how we are embodying and expressing this energy. And so the 45 is the Monarch gate, or the sovereign gate. And I'll talk more about that in a minute. But Mars is already going to have been there starting on the 15th. And Mars is only going to be there for a week because Mars moves fast compared to Jupiter and certainly the outer planets. Mars doesn't stay in a gate for very long. So he's just there for a week. But this is really interesting. And this also influences the full moon, which I'll talk about more in a minute, because this configuration will be going on when the full moon is happening as well. So we've got Jupiter and Mars in the 45. So let's talk about the gate 45. So the gate 45 is here on the throat, and it is in the tribal circuit, and it is tribal leadership here, natural leadership, tribal leadership. It's what we're evolving out of in terms of royalty. Okay, but that's where it came from, kind of that sovereign energy, that monarch energy, that royal king, queen kind of energy. And in quantum human design, Karen Curry Parker has been evolving it. Now she's calling it distribution. At one point, she called it natural leadership. I like to think of it as tribal leadership because it's definitely a tribal energy and a leadership energy. And it's part of the money line in traditional human design with that 2145. And so the idea here of the 21 is that the 21 manages resources, right? And then the 45 distributes them. And so the best monarchs, right? The best tribal leadership is when we are, yes, gathering all of the resources of the tribe, but then we're distributing them in a way that's equitable and supports everyone. So it's not that we're accumulating resources and just holding them and hoarding them in that 45, right? In the monarch, which is what royalty used to do. Not all royals. Some royals were more benevolent and were more compassionate and were more generous. But a lot of times there was this consolidation of power and money and resources of all kinds in the royal family and in the aristocracy. And that's exactly what we're evolving out of. We're evolving into a kind of tribal leadership that is definitely more about what's good for the whole tribe, not just with this small group of people. And so with Jupiter joining Mars there, so Mars is coming in, and Mars can be the bad boy, right? He's the god of war, and he can be the bad boy. He can definitely activate and stir stuff up. So we want to watch out for that, because Mars can fall into that shadow aspect of wanting to be in control and wanting to have power over. And if Mars, is in that state and is lighting up the 45, then we get authoritarianism. Okay. This is what Mars in the 45 can create, is definitely authoritarianism. But if Mars is more awakened and elevated and empowered state, where he's not needing to try to control and manipulate other things, Mars becomes the spiritual warrior. And so we want Mars in his spiritual warrior role here in the 45, because then he can really infuse and activate that natural tribal leadership with that spiritual warrior energy. And spiritual warrior energy is always going to be for the highest good of all, because any kind of spiritual warrior energy that is true to the creative intelligence of the universe is going to be working for unity consciousness, for our understanding that we are all in this together and that we rise together or we fall together. This whole idea that some people can rise and others can fall, and that actually really works, is we're losing patience with that, and we're recognizing that's actually not the case. This is part of what has led us to a lot of the problems we have in our world today. So we are waking up to this and we're saying, okay, we need to evolve this. And then Jupiter is going to come along and say, okay, are you in your spiritual Mars energy, spiritual warrior energy in this 45? Because we're going to expand. However you're experiencing that 45 energy, it's going to be expansive. So here's the thing. If you're like in the disempowered state of the 45 and going, oh, I don't really like leadership, I'm going to stay away from leadership. Leadership is bad. People are going to, control me and manipulate me. And there's good historical reasons why you might feel that way. But that's a disempowered state. Or the shadow state, which I said is authoritarianism, right? It's power over using the power that you have to be coercive or manipulative in order to try to gain power for yourself. Typically, it's generated from fear. Deep down, it's always generated from fear, right? Because it's trying to create safety. So that's the disempowered, and that's the shadow. But when we're in that awakened state, it really has this power to be creating a better world. And it's going to be lit up for all of us. And so the invitation here is for you to step into what could be my most awakened, most generous, most kind, most compassionate, natural leadership. Right? What would that be for me? Where could I start to express that in my life? And watch out for any, tendencies to want to control things. But to try to let that go and see, okay, how can we actually work for the greater good of all? Because if we can do this while Mars is activating this, then we're going to be able to be expand it during this Jupiter transit. But I'll come back to this in a moment when we talk about the full moon. So before we get to the full moon, let's just note that the new moon is in Leo. I actually wore my sparkly shirt today in honor of Leo, because we are in Leo sun energy, and Leo is, dramatic and gorgeous and elegant and powerful and is strong leadership energy, right? King of the forest, queen of the forest, right? Sovereign of the forest. There's definitely a lot of sovereign energy here while the sun is in Leo. So the new moon, which happens on August 4th, is in the gate 33. The sun is in the gate 33 now, and then the moon will join it in the early morning of Sunday, August 4th, here on the Pacific coast. And so you'll really see it on Saturday night, but also Sunday night. It'll be both of those. And then depending on where you are in the world, it'll be the next day. And so the 33 is this beautiful storytelling energy that helps us to really take a look at what are the stories we've been living inside of individually and collectively, and are they supporting us or not? So I talked about this extensively in the transit report that was released on July 30th. So go check that out for a much deeper dive about the sun and the moon in the gate 33. So another happening this month is we have a Mercury retrograde, and it's going to go most of the month. Okay. So just be prepared. It may or may not affect you depending on what's going on in your own natal astrological chart. But we will be affected to some degree with Mars going backward through these different gates. So the cycle is going to be August 5th to the 28th. Mercury is going to be in the gate 59 when it retrogrades on the 5th. It's going to go back into the gate 29 on August 14th, and then into gate 4 on August 2nd, and be there through the end of the month, actually. So what does this mean for you? So Mercury is this really fast-moving mercurial energy, right? Very fast-moving, can be a little frenetic, and we want to really see how it's fostering our communication, right? Our ability to speak. Some people say that Mercury in human design is what we're here to speak about or what we're here to teach about. So the gate 59 is the gate of sexuality in traditional human design, or the gate of sustainability in quantum human design. And so this is an energy that is really about how are we using our powerful yet precious life force energy, because this is on the sacral center. It's part of the channel of love and war, the channel of mating. And so it does have a strong sexual energy to it, but it is also about our life force, because sexual energy isn't just about using it for the act of sex. It's also a powerful life force energy. So we want to look at, are we being sustainable in our communication? Is how we're communicating with each other, does it have a positive life force energy? Or are we somehow using that power of that 59 to try to control or manipulate situations, or to try to control or manipulate resources? Because this has a lot to do with resources. So, Mars is saying, take another look here about how your communication has been around the use of resources, and particularly the use of life force energy. Then the 29 is known as perseverance in traditional human design, or devotion in quantum human design. It's also life force energy. It's also on the sacral center. And so Mercury is saying, take another look at what's your communication about what you're devoting yourself to, or what you're really persistent about, what you're persevering about, what you're just staying with it. Are you getting frustrated, or are you being disappointed, or are you being annoyed, right? What's your communication around this devotion, the energy that it's lighting up? Or are you feeling particularly inspired and enlivened about your devotion, right? And so here this is collective circuitry. It's in the sensing circuit, so it's embodied and it's experiential. It's not analytical at all. And so this is your invitation to be looking at, are you aware of what you're devoted to? Are you purposely devoting yourself to something? Are you devoting yourself to something by default, just because it's the thing that you've always done? You've always done it, so you're going to keep doing it. And that does show a level of perseverance, but it might be unconscious, and it may or may not really suit you. So take another look, is what Mercury says. And then finally, Mercury is going to move into the gate 4 on August 22nd. And the gate 4 is in the logic circuit. Very different energy. And it's really asking about, are you curious about something? Because its mate is the gate of curiosity. Are you seeking answers? Are you trying to nail things down? Or are you open to possibility? Because in quantum human design, it's about possibilities. And so rather than trying to nail things down and seek answers, which can be a little bit closing in, the question is, what are the possibilities that are arising, and how can we be receiving those possibilities, and what will we do with them? So Mercury, again, when it's retrograde, it's saying, hey, take another look at the possibilities that are available to you, and are you being open to them? Are you receiving them? Are you mulling them over, right? Or are you kind of shutting it down by trying to seek answers, which can be either disempowered, where you're like, I don't know the answer to that. What am I going to do with that? I don't know the answer. And then you feel disempowered. Or if you're using it as a way to control or manipulate situations, even unconsciously, by really demanding answers, even if they're not entirely clear yet, or maybe it's not the time for answers. I'm one of those people who's always, promoting questions. Like, our lives are better when we elevate the quality of our questions and stop trying to nail things down and seek answers. Because as soon as we are seeking specific answers, we kind of close off the inquiry. Right? And inquiry is really, the spice of life, as far as I'm concerned. It's really what spiritual practice and spiritual growth is all about. So during this Mercury retrograde, you're going to have the opportunity to be looking at your communications. Are you in a state of possibility? Are you looking at how to be sustainable with your life force energy? Are you making sure that you're devoted to the things that you want to be devoted to consciously and purposely, and not things that you're just kind of unconsciously by rote doing over and over again? And try not to get like freaked out by Mercury retrograde, because it can be a really great time if you embrace it as a review process, right? Because that's really what it is. It's like, hey, let's take another look. This is what retrogrades are all about. Let's take another look. And in some ways, they're even more powerful than the forward motion, because going back over somewhere we've already been, and we're going deeper. It's an opportunity to go deeper. So if any of these gates are ones that you have felt maybe challenged by in certain ways, this will be an opportunity for you to go ahead and elevate that for yourself while it's being lit up by Mercury. Then we finally have a full moon that's going to be happening in Aquarius in the gate 30 on Monday, August 19th. At 11:26 a.m. Pacific time. It's my deceased father's birthday. Happy birthday, Dad. So this is a really potent transit, because the gate 30 is the gate of passion or desire, and it is also known as clinging fire in the I Ching. So it's a super powerful energy. And when we see this in somebody's human design chart, we elevate the intensity of the chart by 10. So this full moon is super activated by being in the gate 30. And so the moon is here. It's what drives us, right? It's going to be stimulating our passion, and the earth is what grounds us. So we're going to be grounding ourselves in this deep sense of passion. But the moon, we have a little creative tension here, right? Which happens in full moons. A little creative tension, because on the one hand, we're grounding ourselves in the energy of the 30, but we're also stimulating it with the energy of the 30 as well. So the 30 is really great for you to step into and awaken a deeper sense of passion for yourself. I think a lot of times we get conditioned away from our passions because we're told we can't make money with them, we can't be successful with them, we won't find a place in the world around what we're passionate about. So this is an opportunity for you to say, because, Aquarius is going to be like, hey, break free from all of that conditioning that you have, right? Break free. Allow yourself to step into possibility. And so taking a look at this for yourself and being like, yeah, what can I be more passionate about? And am I on track with my passions, or have I put my passions to the side? Or have I accepted and received and am now expressing the passions of others when they're not really for me? Because Aquarius would never want you to do that, right? Aquarius is like, drive your own passions, right? So in addition to that, take a look at this. We have the Jupiter and Mars in the 45 during this full moon. So we're going to have this is a powerful configuration, right? If you think about it, because here you've got, Mars in a spiritual warrior mode, lighting up natural leadership. And then Jupiter's like, okay, we're going to expand that. And then the moon and the earth coming into that gate 30, which is super intense. All of this is really intense energy. And the 30 is going to amplify what's happening in that 45, right? It's going to amplify the Mars and Jupiter in the 45. It's going to amplify it by 10. Okay. Now, I know I've been looking at a variety of astrologers who really kind of come at this in a different way, but they're also talking about how this is a super potent full moon happening in August. And a lot of them are talking about what's going on with the presidential race here in the United States, which totally makes sense, because this is all about leadership and what kind of leadership are we going to bring forward into that new moon, and what kind of energy are we going to be putting behind it, right? Is it going to be authoritarianism? Or is it going to be energy that is really about distributing our collective resources for the highest good of all so that they are equitable and everyone is supported? Right? Which is what tribal leadership would do when it's in its awakened state. If you want any examples of this, you can just go and look at the teachings of indigenous peoples of the Americas, because they talk about this a lot. I talk about this actually rather extensively in my book, in Pillar 8, that has to do with stewardship. Because many of the indigenous nations, and this is actually in the Great Law of Peace, which was put together by what became known as the Iroquois Confederacy. That's what the French named this group. And that we received their Great Law of Peace. And that natural leadership was all about what was best for everyone, what was best for the tribe. And that the chiefs were selected by the elder women based on their ability to really take care of everyone, and that authoritarianism would not have been tolerated. So this is something for us to really be looking at, and for you to have moments of truth for yourself about what it is that you are really supporting in your own life. Because man, the human design and the astrology of this is really potent. And just take a look at that, right? So I really invite you to receive this assignment. And you have a good almost 3 weeks to be working with this and leaning into it and seeing what it means for you. And I will talk about this more again when we get to the transit where this is more relevant. And today, the registration for the Sovereign Sisterhood has opened. I'll make sure that the link for that is down in the description. And the Sovereign Sisterhood is the next evolution of our Becoming Sovereign Quantum Retreat Center. And so I'm very excited about what we're going to be doing there. In our first month in August, we're going to be diving into the program of Transform Your Life with Human Design. And we're going to be exploring that together. And that is a bonus that you'll receive when you register for it. And if you register between August 1st and August 15th, for those of you who are watching this after it comes out, you will be able to receive the founding member rate, which is $37. You'll have that in perpetuity, but then you'll also have a free month. So the August month will be free. It's a beta opening because we're still building it. There's plenty in there, but we're still building it. And we also want to receive your input about what you would like to see in there. This is going to be a great opportunity for me to get to meet you and get to know you, and for you to get to know me in a different way, and for you to get to connect with other people who are also studying human design and feminine sovereignty and really are on our evolutionary path, right? And so I'm delighted to bring this forth for you. And I hope that you will join us. And like I said, if you check it out for this month and you decide it's not for you, you can totally cancel it anytime. No big deal. Or you might want to stay and have that founding member rate forever. As long as I'm offering it anyway. All right. So that is my transit report for August. And I'm really excited. I hope to get to meet you soon. Many blessings. Much love. Bye for now.